Hello, hello, hello. Back. Freezing cold. Welcome. Queen City. Radio City. This is me, your host. You guys hear me? Hey, I hate the parade. That's good. Please like and subscribe. Everything here tells me that you're hearing me. So you want to just see the, thumbs up. Oh, Veronica. Hero, if you will. Ronnie. I am active right now. This is not Dave. Yes, I am here. I am live. I'm in Cincinnati where it's freaking freezing. I went down to Sarasota for 2 days, visit my mom, who's in a little bit of ailing health. Please give your best wishes. And it was warmer there, a lot warmer. But they had their issues too. There was the red tide on the beach there, where literally you couldn't go out on the beach without coughing up a lung. I did a video, which I'm going to hope you're all going to watch later, because I took video walking along the beach. It looked like a fish funeral. I think there's even a baby hammerhead shark there that I got a picture of. I mean, it could be a nursing shark. I don't know. Maybe I'll put that up. Everybody can try to figure it out. But yeah, that's caused by billionaires. You may not know that. That's runoff from agricultural products, big agricultural monopolies who just don't care. Koch brothers are huge in that. Oil and that kind of crap. And sewage in our water, because that's good. So that's what we think climate change isn't bad enough. Maybe people, if they don't want to believe in scientists, will believe in the fact that when they're coughing and cannot breathe, that maybe there's something to that. In any case, we got to come back to, we were there to see my mom, so I'm not complaining at all. I'm just making the point that we're all in this together, because I don't care if you had $0 or if you have $15 million. If you're not a billionaire, you weren't using that, nobody was using that beach. You could have paid to be at a very nice resort there and be wealthy as hell, and they're still screwing you. The ones who've taken over our government, the ones who, I've got to get this out here with the Musk thing. Again, I just see someone asking, is it true that he fired Musk? I don't know, but his court filing says he did. As we know, a sworn statement to Donald Trump is nothing, right? What's a little perjury between friends? But in a sworn statement to the court, they said that Elon Musk is not running DOGE. In fact, he is not a part of the Trump administration. If you want, why don't we go right to the beginning here, and I'll give you the quotes so you'll know I'm not just making up some crazy stuff. Trump ally Elon Musk is not actually in charge of DOGE, White House says. President Donald Trump's billionaire ally Elon Musk is not actually in charge of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, according to a Monday court filing, raising more questions about the operation that's wreaked havoc across the federal government and whether he is even a part of it. The sworn declaration, Joshua Fisher, the director of the Office of Administration, which is under Trump, obviously, claimed to have, quote, personal knowledge of Musk's status within the government. Quote, Musk is, quote, not an employee of the U.S. DOGE Service or the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization. Anybody want to guess what the difference is between the U.S. DOGE Service and the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization? That's the only problem here, is these people are so dumb that it's kind of hard to know what they're talking about. Fisher said, Mr. Musk is not the U.S. DOGE Service Administrator. Well, Donald Trump said that he introduced him as running DOGE. And now in a legal filing, I almost said the word firing there. In a legal filing, I did say the word there. Let me try this again. In a legal filing, they're saying that he's not running it anymore. What happened? Sounds like you're fired to me. Am I missing something? Somebody's saying it's legal BS. It may be. But legal BS, I mean, so far, even Trump appointees, we talked the other day about, when one of the many times that Scott Jennings has massively embarrassed himself on TV, where he said, "Oh, these liberal judges, they're all trying to destroy Trump." And then Abby Phillips sat there and said, to his face, like, "You mean the Trump-appointed judge that just rejected this, the Reagan-appointed judge that just rejected that, the George W. Bush judge that just rejected that, the other Reagan judge that just rejected that, and the other Trump judge that just rejected. I mean, these are conservative judges. They are saying that he is not running DOGE. Donald Trump said he was running DOGE before. So he's either officially been canned or unofficially been canned. It doesn't really much matter because DOGE isn't a real agency, as I've said before. It's the same as the Cliff Schecter Penn agency. Has as much power as that. The Senate hasn't created that agency, just the way it hasn't created DOGE. So it's not a real thing. It's a thing that he and Donald Trump thought was funny because they're dorks. And maybe all that spray paint that Donald Trump puts all over his body to be orange is seeping into his brain. So what's the deal? Is Musk part of this? Is he not part of it? Is he running it? Is he not running it? Up to you. But this is a legal filing in a court of law. If those still count for something in the United States of America, I don't know. I see Tony. We'll add him, get his opinion.
Yeah. Court of law. Huh? In the Musk Trump administration. That's something, huh?
I mean, the fun part of it is, look, man, even assuming that it's just a lawyer went rogue and did it, you know, and this guy from the Office of Services Administration, they always have the goofiest names in government. Like, this is the Office of Secretary of Services of Undersecretary of Administration. You're like, what the hell does that mean? But but the point is it's somebody with a position there speaking for Trump, filing a legal brief, filed a legal brief that Elon Musk is not running DOGE, that he is not an administrator, he is not part of it, he is nothing. So even if, let's just say, somebody did that and Trump changes his mind, which, you know, Trump could have been in a bad mood, or he could have just let out a really loud fart knowing what he eats, and maybe they misheard him. I don't know, but the end point here still is the same, which is they're legally saying he's not part of this thing, so now they got to walk that back, and you know that's going to piss Elon off, and you know it's humiliating for Elon. So it causes more fights between them because somebody here, if it wasn't Trump, somebody was shivving Elon in the Trump administration, and that's a great thing.
Well, and I know that Susie Wiles has gave him the shiv almost immediately when she wouldn't allow him to have an office inside the White House. It was the reason why I think he went in there in the Oval Office with his son X, is he was trying to demonstrate that he owned Donald Trump.
His son DMX, did you say?
DMX? No, I think his son is X, right?
Oh,
and then
okay. I'm not accepting just a letter as the name of his son.
I mean, maybe they ran out of letters in the alphabet. I don't know, but I don't know what Ashley Sinclair's baby is going to be called. And that really, maybe
hopefully
Doge.
It'll be called The Last. I don't know. Can we call it? Can we call it Future Vasectomy? I don't know. Whatever we can call it. I mean, if ever there were a justification for the government to force a vasectomy on somebody, I think we've got it right there.
Well, I mean, the next president of the United States, when we elect the next president of the United States, they're actually going to be able to appoint someone, one person. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be me. It could be me, Cliff.
Whatever you're talking about, I don't know yet, but I'm sure whatever it is, it will be you.
Well, it definitely will be me. It'll be like the Department of Government Get Rid of Elon department is probably what it'll be. And what I'll do is I'll use my unilateral power that has been afforded to me by the president of the United States, and I will send Elon Musk. First off, I will go through every single penny that he has ever spent or ever made.
Well, you can't because there's no more pennies.
Well, that is true. Nickels.
Huge step forward. But actually, that's one of the few things I kind of agree with them on. And yet, the fact that they made a big deal of that, like all these other stupid things, it's like, oh, that's wonderful. You got rid of pennies.
Right. Well, you know what's funny about that? You know what's funny about that is that the place that makes all the penny blanks in the country is in Tennessee, and it's like,
right, so they're all going to lose their jobs. Or whatever.
Right. Like
I was just tempted to make a lot of Jewish jokes because I can do that and get away with it, but I'm not going to.
I'll refrain.
You should probably refrain. You'll get in trouble. I can. I
would. They'd be like, "You're an anti-Semite, Tony."
I know.
But this agency that I'm going to be in charge of, that the new president will appoint me to be in charge of, because I'm the smartest man. I'm not the richest man in the world, but I'm clearly the smartest. Duh. I mean, clearly. But I will make sure. Yeah, right. I will make sure that we take advantage of these concentration camps down at Gitmo. After we get done knowing every single nickel that Elon has either made or spent, we'll go through all the financial records ever since he was born in the history of ever. We'll go through all that stuff. We'll use hackers to get it all, by the way, not auditors, not accountants. We'll use hackers because we're just going to make stuff up, really, honestly. We're going to make stuff up about him. And
I've said before, I kind of feel like that's where, you and I have had those conversations, and I'm like, guys, why don't we just start making up all sorts of stuff about them?
Right.
Did
just
you guys
make it
know
up.
that Elon Musk has a third testicle that he named Y? Did you know that?
Is that where X came from? Is the third
that's
one?
what I'm saying.
X
I just
came
said
from
it,
Y?
so it could be true because as Elon Musk said in the Oval Office with his little 2-year-old cursing out Donald Trump, remember he said, "I will say some things that are wrong or that are incorrect."
Incorrect.
And you're just like, you mean everything you ever say? Like nothing you say, you are on the Trump level, and that is a special level to be on, where what comes out of your mouth 30 seconds later, the exact opposite may come out of your mouth, and you will not acknowledge it. I'm not even sure you're such a pathological liar. I don't even know if you'll fully know it. Like
what would be easier is to point out when he's correct. Right?
Yeah,
that would be so much easier. That would be so much easier if we just focused on when he's correct. Like if we could just focus on when he's correct, it would make it so much easier.
You could spend less time just
exactly.
He's talking again, he's lying, and then
right.
Wait, he got that one right.
Breaking news: Elon said something that's correct. He tweeted something that's factual. I mean,
well, I saw this, and I'm just like, I'm running with it because, as far as I'm concerned, it causes dissension at the very least. So I really
is this a court case? Because I missed.
Yes. There's a filing in court this morning. No, yesterday morning.
Okay.
And in it, it says, again, I quoted it. I don't know if you were here yet, but very, very clear language. It is not even legal speak. Here it is. Quote. Well, actually, not quote. It says Musk. It's in the Huffington Post. Musk, and then quote, is not an employee of the U.S. DOGE Service or the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization. I don't know the difference. Mr. Musk is not the U.S. DOGE Service Administrator. So he's not in it. Again, he's not running it, even though Donald Trump stood by him and Vivek Ramaswamy and said they're running this thing.
Well, right, but the thing is, no one is because it doesn't exist. Like you said, it's not a real thing. It's just.
But he could have like his little fake thing and say, okay, this is a little this is my little group of friends, and I'm putting together this little group, and Musk is running it, even though it has no power and law. And like, how pathetic is that? Musk just got fired from that.
What, I mean, why didn't they
committee that doesn't exist?
Why didn't they do the whole czar thing? That's so much easier in our government to create czars. He could have been like the czar of stealing everyone's money, right? The czar of taking down Medicare.
And let's not use czar. I think we should get into the whole spirit of our being at the end of our run here and call them Caesars.
Oh, well, I mean, czars is pretty good. Especially
czar comes from Caesar, and that's true.
Right.
That was.
Since we're coming to be the new Russia, we're like Russia 2.0. You know,
Czar might be better. We also could go with Kaiser. That's also in German. That's czar. Mm-hmm. It's not so far from Führer.
Right. I've been wondering because it's pretty clear that they want us to be more like Russia. I mean, they're kind of they're making it paving the way for Russia just to march into Poland, which Germany and NATO seems damn determined that they're not going to do. And I think
that honestly, I think that leads to a nuclear conflagration. I'm not kidding you. I mean, I think because at that point, look, the United Kingdom and France, at the very least, out of the NATO countries, have nuclear weapons. And at that point, if they will not defend Poland, they know this too. It becomes clear to Russia that there's nobody they won't throw overboard. Ukraine, as horrible as it is, was not in NATO. Should have been, but wasn't. So, I mean, I don't think, I could be wrong. If Putin wants to live and cares about anything, I don't know that he marches in there.
Well, but I think Putin is, whether he eats an ammo sandwich or he gets his head chopped off or is hung by the people, I think Putin is pretty much finished either way.
I think if he
And
marches into Poland, he's dead within 48 hours.
oh yeah,
by
right.
Russian higher ups who do not want to be nuked.
Right. Well, and I think I think the other thing too is a lot of people understand that Putin is in control, and that's not how kleptocracies work. It is the oligarchs that are really in control. They use Putin and they give him the power, and make him feel powerful, and let him use his hammer to meet their ends.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's the same way. It's the same way. The MAGA politicians, the power, and the oligarchs in this country use Trump.
I think behind the scenes, and again, please don't think that this is me in any way defending this guy who I think is a slimy, grimy piece of waste, and that is Jeff Bezos. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not defending it. What I am saying is, I bet behind the scenes he's actually pretty moderate politically. May even be a little bit to the left. He supported some causes in the past.
He may not even really have any anchor in ideology.
The issue is it doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, what matters is not what you think, it's what you do. And when you're willing to enable a fascist because you care more about that Amazon, which clearly isn't big enough, needs to be bigger, then what do I mean, again, with all these guys, what do I care what they personally think? I care what they do,
Well, and I don't think that some of these people are rooted in any sort of ideology, right? Like I don't think ideology drives what they're doing. It's kind of like the Target thing. A lot of people are upset about Target with their DEI thing, which I think is ridiculous that we even pay attention to that. But that's just my personal opinion. But but just as much as Target took their DEI policy out, they would put it back in if they thought that it would benefit them at the bottom line.
Again, it's like corporate media. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
There are a couple of them that because they're wealthy nuts, well, obviously Rupert Murdoch's the easiest one, but some others that are honestly right wingers and Trump supporters. But most of those guys, and I'll call them guys because most of them are, they couldn't care less. Like it really is just about, how much can we line up to smooch the enormous orange bottom, and get like any tax cuts and any regulation cuts. Did you hear what I was talking about before, by the way? I know I told you because we spoke on the phone when we're talking about tax and regulation cuts and that kind of thing. Like when I was down in Sarasota, like how the beaches are at the point where because of the red tide, we could not breathe on them. And the point I made to people, because I'm trying to remind people to unite everybody, so we're not fractured among ourselves, which is what happens, right? Didn't matter if you're a woman, man, black, white. Didn't matter your ethnicity. Here's what else didn't matter. Did not matter if you were dirt poor, if you were working class, middle class, upper middle class. Didn't matter if you had $15 million in the bank. Nobody in the current definition, unless they've somehow developed gills, and I don't think that would have worked because the fish were all dead too.
Maybe Peter Thiel. He
may have gills.
Yeah, he's working on that. He's working.
He's definitely
he definitely has gills.
Peter Thiel definitely has gills to develop gills. I mean, let's be honest here.
Yeah, 100%.
If anybody found an old copy of like a Joseph Mengele book to look at, I promise you it's him. But anybody who breathes air, which is all of us as far as I know, including our pets and whatever, you literally could not be on the beach.
What's it like? What's it like? What's it feel like?
Should I be honest about it?
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
A couple of times when I was in college, we passed the statute of limitations now.
Yeah, you're way past statute of limitations.
With a couple of friends and somebody hands
you're right. Yeah, you're in good company. No one's going to find out what you're going to say here. It's not like you're live streaming it or
Nobody can hear us here. We're in a private room.
Exactly.
It's all good. Mm-hmm. So somebody hands you over the beer bong.
Oh, okay.
And you take way too big a hit. Way too big. So it's like burning your throat. Now, this is me being objectively truthful. I was not a huge pot smoker. I did have it here and there. So I'm not trying to deny it. I smoked some pot, yes, but I wasn't huge. I was more of a booze guy.
Did you inhale though?
21 most of the time. So I'm not trying to get out of anything. I was mostly illegally drinking, is what I'm saying. But especially
there was a lot of illegality. It just not most of it focused on alcohol, not marijuana.
Exactly. But especially if you were someone who smoked that often, that could happen to you. And I'll never forget once or twice that happening, and literally it feeling like someone, also like if you have strep throat or something, it's like it feels like someone's holding a flame up to your throat. I'm not saying it was like that constantly, but on and off, because what would happen is it would get in there, like a wind would blow your way, you get in there and you'd start coughing. And while you're coughing, your throat would start to burn. Somebody asked in there, Tiki Tony, if it was yesterday. It wasn't yesterday. Yesterday, actually, we flew back yesterday afternoon. And the morning we were able to go out on the beach. There still were some dead fish there. But the red tide had receded. And so that was the 3 days we were there. We were there really 2 days. We got there Saturday late afternoon to evening, and then we're there all day Sunday and the first half of Monday. See my mom, who's down there. And that was the only time we could go on the beach. And again, there's no clear divider. There's no clear, more easy message you could share with people than the fact that no one could use this beach, these perfectly nice, beautiful beaches, some of which were public and some of which were private with resorts. Didn't matter how much money you had, you couldn't use those beaches. And the reason you couldn't do it is because people for years, like the Koch brothers, are a classic example of those who sell all these agricultural products that have runoff and have been deregulated. So all this crap runs off. They dump, sewage is dumped by companies. This is why when we don't make regulation an issue, when I'm sitting at the airport in Sarasota flying back and reading about we just fired more FAA people, and I'm just like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm getting on a plane.
That plane just turned upside down in Toronto. What we want to do right now is fire more. I've never been scared of flying. I'm not, I don't have a fear of flying. I think maybe when I was a really little kid, because like, what the hell's going on? And yet, for the first time I think in ages, I got on a plane. I was like, is this safe at this point? I mean, that's what they're doing. I mean, I wrote that huge piece at Substack, and I did that huge thing on the FDA and the creation of the administrative state, so people wouldn't needlessly die from so that people wouldn't needlessly get poisoned by food and get in car accidents and things of that nature. These various departments, and I mean, they're gutting the EPA and the key part of this that I shared. And again, I'm going to put this video up later today, so I hope you all go to my YouTube channel at Cliffs_Edge and you will watch it. But one of the first or early of the 10 billion executive orders Donald Trump signed, again, if you want to split this out more perfectly with who this is for, if you, quote, invested $1 billion or more, I'm not kidding you, $1 billion. Donald Trump chose that number into the United States. You would get quick permits and be waived through environmental regulations.
Well,
literally, hi, I have $1 billion. I'm dumping poop in there. It's going to make people over there not be able to breathe.
Doesn't matter.
He's not a billionaire. And Donald Trump's like,
that's a great idea. Great idea. Do you remember what was the oil rig that got a hole in it?
BP?
Yeah. What was it called?
That was in the Gulf of America, I believe.
Yeah, right. But Jimmy Fallon and Brad Paisley did a song. And because there was balls of oil all in the ocean, because it clumped together.
That's gonna be the name of Elon Musk's next son, by the way.
Balls of oil. But the song went, balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. And it makes me think of the red tide, that you can't go swim because it's like dead fish. Just like when what the hell was what was the name of that rig that exploded? Deepwater Horizon. That's
Deepwater Horizon. People putting it in the and I wanted to answer everybody who comes in here. Chicky Chick, I'm answering you when you're asking, is Elon Musk fired? In a legal document that they filed in the courts, they said that Elon Musk is not administrator, nor is he a part of DOGE. Donald Trump said he was a part of DOGE and appointed him to that position. So yeah, am I taking a step? But he either is or he isn't. And this was a legal document. So legally, unless they're committing perjury, they're saying he's been canned. That's all I can do. Yep. I mean, I jazzed it up a little bit. I wanted to make it exciting here. Obviously, want to have a good conversation and messaging. I want to stick the shiv in Elon's fragile emotions as much as possible. So this is what we should all run with. I mean, legally, again, if courts still mean anything in this country, which is an open question, but if they do, he was with them, and they've declared legally he is no longer with them. That's firing. I don't know what else to say. I'm sure they'll walk it back somehow, find some loophole, or do something. I don't know, but that's where we are right now.
So I'm looking at Elon's Twitter page because I just want to see if he said anything about this. But he just retweeted a White House reality TV show video. They spent a lot of time on this apparently. And the White House put out a video. It's ASMR, illegal alien deportation flight, where they're chaining them up. So I want to tell you, I actually
a flight where they're chaining people up and they're showing that. But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Should we start showing some old what was the movie Amistad where they're slaves chained on a ship? I mean, that's what it feels like. Like
now I believe actually that this is not gonna help him, and the reason why is because people are actually gonna find out that they've spent so much time producing a fake video, because I think it's fake. I don't think it's actually real, because they're not showing
chained up video.
Yeah, it's probably fake. It's not real. They staged it. They staged it. It's not real.
Assume everything they do is
yeah. Well, we're gonna find out that Barack Obama deported more people than Donald Trump. I bet that we find out that Barack Obama, in any 90 days that you take of his presidency, and the reason why I say Barack Obama, because that's much more effective than Joe Biden. This is how you get in the grill. I bet any 90 days that you pick out, consecutive 90 days that you pick out of Barack Obama's presidency, it will be he deported more people than Trump's first 100 days of his second presidency.
Oh, I mean, they used to do some of those comparisons with his first term, and it was always that way, right?
Right.
I mean, always anything, whether you thought it was good or bad, that Trump said he was going to do, Obama, Clinton, after that Biden did more of whatever that thing was than Trump did. Obviously, unless it was some overt racist statement. But when he said he was going to do something, like some policy action, because Trump, again, he's too lazy. He just doesn't do anything. I mean, it is hard to stand up when you've got 4 bags of cheese doodles on your chest. You ever try that? I mean, that's not easy, Tony. That can weigh you down.
It could. I'm actually scanning through Elon's Twitter feed here, and it's.
So has he reacted to it?
I'm trying to find it.
People should taunt him.
It's just
like,
interesting.
Fired, you're canned. You're a loser. You're gone.
It's just interesting that a lawyer, an actual professional who actually, has some sort of credentials, that wrote this memo, right? That wrote this memo that you're talking about. Because Elon clearly does not have any professional, credible credentials. If you look at his Twitter page, it's worse trash talking than mine. And this person is supposed to be responsible for our data and our social security numbers and the money that we paid into the government.
He's trying to get into the Social Security Administration now.
Right.
One of the people already, and again, I wish they would stop doing this, because I get why they do it. But these people that resign, yeah, they're heroes. But why don't you stay there and fight?
Right.
Like this person, the Treasury, was the Treasury or no, at the IRS, because he's trying to get the taxpayer information, and whoever it was, one of the high ups there said, you have no right to do that, and was like, well, fine, I'm resigning. No, stay in their way. Like, I mean, the whole point is we need you there. If you're somebody who believes in laws and the rule of law and believes that this guy who, again, I mean, let's take this back a couple levels. He always was the leader of a fake agency with no Senate power whatsoever and an unelected official. He's now the fired or let go or ignored, non-leader of a fake agency and an unelected official, which means the fact that he has not yet been, I don't understand how he hasn't yet been arrested. There must be some way, even if Trump controls the DOJ, I would think when he did not allow, when he would not allow Jasmine Crockett and Maxwell Frost and some of them into the building to do their oversight, which they have a right to do as members of the Oversight Committee. Congress has that right. Why the Capitol Police didn't arrest him? Or, I mean, again, like somebody there's got to be somebody out there who will arrest this man. He broke the law. He was a private citizen. He wasn't even a member. Apparently, according to them, in a court of law, he wasn't even running the fake committee he said he was running. So it'd be like, what? Can I just walk into the Treasury Department and break into stuff? Of course not. I'll be thrown in prison. What right does he have to do that? How can he do that? What the hell's going on?
Well, the other thing too that I think a lot of Americans are missing here is that Elon Musk doing this, regardless of what you think about the money that he's, because if he was going after all the money that was going to go to the rich people,
yep.
You know, maybe we'd have a different feeling about it. But I don't know that I would. And the reason why is because this is taxation without representation. The money that they're saving, they're not actually saving that money. It's not like they're going to write us a big check and send us the check. Right. The money that they're saving. That's all nonsense. And they're probably not even going to stop the appropriated funds. And the reason why is because they at some point they have to write that check because it's in the law. So the courts may make them write those checks. You know, those agencies may not have a choice. They may not be able to listen to Donald Trump or Elon Musk. They may have to actually issue the money because it is appropriated funds. But it is taxation without representation, meaning they are still taxing us. They're taxing us without the representation of us. And what I mean by that is we vote for Congress. Now, whether you like it or not, whether you like how they're appropriated, whether you like how the budget's done, whatever you want to bitch and moan about in the budget or how it's wasted or whether it goes to rich people or poor people, however you feel about it, that is how representation works with taxation. That's why our government is set up that the House of Representatives has the purse is because of, I don't know, there was like a king somewhere and we threw tea off a boat and like people were mad that they kept taxing us and we didn't get a say in anything in those taxes. It's almost like we're back at that point that now Elon Musk can go in and loot anything he wants from the federal government without our representation.
And he's gotten like his own, I mean, he's just so patently dishonest. I mean, people like that are just so fundamentally dishonest. During that time, he has gotten, a number of contracts from the government worth hundreds of millions, I believe. And it's like, so he's cutting everybody else's money. He stole $80 million out of a FEMA account in a New York bank. You know, he's doing all of this stuff, and yet somehow it's okay. I mean, he's such a, I mean, this is what I worried about when Trump won, and of course, if Trump, the first time, and if Trump won again, is that all of the worst people in the world were going to be emboldened by that. I mean, MAGA has become a movement. As I said before, it's flypaper. It's like it's like when there's aliens who can only spot each other and don't see anybody else. Like they can spot each other. Like they're psychotic. They're sociopathic. They're narcissistic. They're sadistic. Evil, cruel, lawless, horrible, racist, stupid, and any number of other things. And like they all know who each other are. So like when you saw Trump start behaving in a way that presidents hadn't behaved before, well, then that sends a message to all these other guys. Like, yeah, I can be that terrible too. I'm letting in quickly. I've got a good pal of mine and a great writer, and you'll like this, Tony, an avid Substacker, if you will.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm
Jonathan Larson, who's here.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Jonathan's here. That's Tony Michaels, who's also gotten into the Substack thing lately, and actually convinced me to join Jonathan. And we're going to talk to Jonathan a bit because he's been killing it on Substack on the leaderboard.
Woo!
You are, dude.
The coveted leaderboard spot. That's
and
great.
I have to at least at one point say the full name. They may demonetize me, but they can go to hell. I have to say the full name of his Substack, which is called The Fucking News, which I love.
Jonathan, I subscribe and I get your newsletter, and so everyone should subscribe.
Everyone should subscribe. Seriously,
yeah,
Jonathan's brilliant, great writer, smart guy, funny guy,
and what's better name than The Fucking News?
Right? It works on so many levels.
Yeah,
it really does. I'm
especially
sort of
right now.
I didn't think. I mean, I may have to have a subsection. On my Substack, like at least a weekly thing that somehow curses just egregiously to feel better about myself now.
I do a show 2 hours a day just to get all that out.
Yeah.
I know.
Get all
Problem,
that out.
you're lucky though. Again, and I do think you're lucky. I almost wish it's not enough money. I wish they would just demonetize me at YouTube so I could say whatever the hell I wanted to say. But because they do pay me, I can't.
It is kind of fun that I'm demonetized because it frees me. Like I don't have these shackles of, oh, if I say this, that, you know, they punish me monetarily. So when I don't have that fear of money, I can just say whatever the hell comes to my mind. And it works out pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting into details yet, but I should tell you all that Substack may be the main place I start doing live streams from. We'll see. I will still stream to YouTube. It just may become a matter of, oh no, they demonetized me. You know, and because I've got a major launch going on next week. On Tuesday is the tentative date. And I'll go into more details as to why it's a major launch when I'm already there. But we'll wait. We'll get a little bit closer to go time before I go into various details.
Congratulations.
You know, well, let's ask Jonathan about stuff. What have you been writing about?
I write about many things. I actually have, so I do TFN, as we call it for the family audiences. I do TFN for, that's a weekday morning newsletter, but I also do original reporting on the Jonathan Larson Substack, which is just my name, .substack.com. That's family friendly. I had people say like, could you do your like real reporting on a site that I can actually share it with people? So I did a bunch of stuff on the National Prayer Breakfast earlier this month. I broke some news about that, and I'm going to be breaking more. So if people are interested in that, because people don't really appreciate how it's sort of like the spear tip of like acceptable anodyne Christian nationalism, but with some democratic help, it basically like pierces that separation of church and state wall and blurs the lines there. So I do a lot of stuff there. But in terms of the daily newsletter, TFN, Mom, Cliff, you and I were talking before about the show about these legal filings from the White House last night regarding DOGE and Musk. And I don't know if you've already sort of laid out what happened at all, or if you want to. I just don't want to repeat it.
Well, I know,
I'm actually looking to see if Elon has responded on Twitter, and I can't find where he has responded.
I just sent a response to people because there are a bunch of people like, oh, it's just clickbait, it's just whatever. Yeah, did I name this something that was sort of, that had a little oomph to it? I did, but it wasn't clickbait. I don't.
Wait, what do you mean? What was clickbait?
Well, I said I basically was like, he seems like he was fired. I mean, their legal filing is that he does not lead DOGE. He is not a member of DOGE. And this is a legal filing by the Trump administration in court. And if we're still going to assume legal filings hold sway in this country, which I'm still going to assume that we somewhat respect the rule of law, then when Donald Trump declared him, weeks ago, the head of DOGE, Donald Trump has now declared him no longer a part of DOGE, not leading it, nor a part of it. That's getting fired. So maybe I could have said it in different language. Yeah, I used evocative language by saying you're fired because Trump likes to say that stuff. And I was playing on Trump's words. But I am using a legal filing here that they put in court saying that he is not leading DOGE. So I had and now he's not. What does that mean to all of you who are trying to accuse me of the clickbait thing?
So I had a similar headline about Trump's job cutting cuts Trump's job, basically, because he brought in this guy to do all the stuff that the president theoretically is supposed to do, right? If you're elected to reform in quotes government, you're probably supposed to do that, or at least tell people who are in recognizable positions. But the thing I was telling you, Cliff, before I came on was I don't see it as a demotion for Musk. I see it as Trump or the White House giving Musk cover, because if he had this official position, which it's not clear to me he ever did, I mean, the entity itself barely existed. So it seems plausible to me that he actually has been, quote, senior advisor to the president the entire time. because Doge was made up. We never got an org chart. Who the hell knew what it was?
Well, the Senate didn't. I mean, it wasn't a real. The Senate didn't create it.
Yeah.
To be a real committee, the Senate has to actually create it.
Right, to be an
But
actual federal agency. But the president does have the ability to create these sort of like subordinate entities within his orbit. They're just not supposed to have
these sort of little
that kind of
things and be
power.
like, hey, there's a group of my friends or
Right.
whatever.
And so I think it was District Court Judge John Bates, if I remember correctly, he actually said, I think he really put the nail on the head here, which was he said, it seems like Doge is embracing what he referred to as agencyhood, its status as an agency, when it benefits them, and then when being an agency would make them accountable, right?
Yep.
Privacy Act, Freedom of Information Act, like agencies would have to do all these things. Then they say, well, gosh, we're not actually an agency. So it seemed to me that what Trump is doing, or the White House is doing, is basically saying, you can't hold Musk accountable because he doesn't have an official accountable position, and because he's not actually giving orders, he's just telling people what Trump would say, which of course
Doge
is an
isn't
order.
an official accountable position either.
Now, wait a second, Jonathan. Are you saying that Trump is full of shit?
How dare you, sir?
I know.
Is that what you're saying? Because I feel like what you're saying is truly Trump's MO always.
So
it's always half in, half out. So that way he can make up and play along and pretend this entire time. Because I think that's all this. A lot of this is to Trump is
well,
pretending.
I mean, everything is pretend,
right?
It's Schrodinger's executive branch.
But
Whatever.
Again, that's good. That's
Can I
good.
ask something, Jonathan? No, I mean, maybe I didn't understand you said it, because again, the reason I'm sticking with this is that he's not. If you're not part of a real organization, right? Like I said, hi, I'm the Cliff Schecter Penn Committee. That holds as much legal weight as Doge does.
Right.
But that also holds as much legal weight as he's an advisor. So I don't understand how he's shielded from accountability, because they're both fake positions that he hasn't been legally appointed to. So no matter what he does in either position, it's the same thing. Like he's still somebody who is unaccountable to all.
But I suspect what they want to avoid is having to litigate Doge's existence. It's not just a fig leaf, I would say, for Musk. It's a fig leaf for all of Doge. The whole premise, right? Because the filings from there were literally two guys named Joshua in the Trump administration who had filings last night. And one of them, I forget which one, said, all of these people who have been let go, these probationary hires, the 200,000 hired within the last year, who therefore
Joshua
legally,
Fisher was one of them.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was him. He might be the Office of Administration within the White House. He said, all of these people who've been laid off have been laid off by agency personnel, these cabinet agencies. So he's saying, look, there's nothing untoward going on here. Doge hasn't laid off everyone. The decisions, the communications all emanated from the agency leadership. Now, of course, you would be right and smart to say, but Doge told them who to fire. And that is absolutely true. So that's it's the having it both ways.
I get they're trying to play that. Again, I mean, look, if there are judges who will, like Eileen Cannon, it doesn't really matter what we do. If there are judges who honestly look at that, they will quite clearly see that what they're doing, it wouldn't seem to be legal.
Can I bring up a point here? Because I think actually, when we're speaking about the bureaucrats, the actual human beings that have the jobs, they're not just numbers. My mom was a bureaucrat in state government, so I actually get really, really upset when people act like bureaucrats they're lazy and somehow they're bloodsuckers and stuff. That really gets under my skin, because a lot of my family members were civil servants. But I will say the human beings behind this, I actually believe that this half in, half out gives them more of a legal standing in court. It feels like to me. And the reason why is because is if it's obscure of who's actually firing them, because there's been multiple reports, and you've probably seen this, Jonathan. There's multiple reports of these agencies sending emails, and one will be, at 9 a.m. and by 9:30, there's one that says the exact opposite. And by noon, it's saying something totally different. So they're like, do I have a job? Do I not have a job? Can I log in? Can I not log in? And all that mixture, all it does is bolster a class action lawsuit against the federal government. To me, I think that's where this is all headed. And I believe that Elon Musk is going to be locked in court a long time because he's the one grandstanding. And
there are tons of lawsuits against him already for all of this stuff. So again, they can play these legal games that they're playing, but the point is, he was a private citizen. He broke into the Treasury Department. He broke into let's just say the payment system, one of the most secretive parts. He pulled $80 million out of a bank in New York. He's done all sorts of things. And, well, as you know, I guess I'll use the word allegedly. What he has been accused of, all of that, right? Seems like it's happened. We know. Well, he didn't.
I love the layup at the end. By the way, I love the layup at the end.
Well, you know what? I mean, because I don't. The payment system and all of that. I can't say, right? I don't have pictures of him there. I know.
I mean, it seems very unclear.
He walked in the Treasury Department, and so I know that's breaking and entering when you're a private citizen. All right, like you cannot do that, and he demanded it, and he did it. So the truth of the matter is that they can throw out all the little half justifications and make him part in, part out, this, whatever. He has broken the law. Okay. If I walked in the Treasury Department, demanded my way in as a private citizen, started playing around with stuff in there, and if either of you two did, all three of us would be sitting in jail cells right now. So,
sure, but ultimately someone let them in. Someone made the decision. The guards stood down. They let them in the building. So,
but that doesn't mean they had the legal right to. Sure, Musk walked up to them and demanded it and threatened them and said, "I'll have your jobs," and God knows what else. Like,
sure.
The point is that the guards.
Did he actually physically go in the building, or did he just send these little hackers in for him? I'm not sure of that. Did he actually physically enter the buildings? I don't know.
He physically entered the building.
Elon did.
Yes, at least from the reports I read in numerous.
Allegedly.
I want to use the word allegedly.
I like to use the word allegedly.
My lawyer wants me to use the word allegedly.
Jonathan has consulted his attorney here while on air, and allegedly is the word that we
like to use the word allegedly because Elon Musk is a big fan of suing people and trying to destroy them. All I know is it really does seem pretty clear that he's gone certain places that government officials are only supposed to go, that the order came from either him or Donald Trump, one of them, to not allow oversight Democrats in. That is also illegal. They have an oversight duty, and so again, they can try to sort of twist this into a pretzel and do whatever they would like to do, but he's conducted numerous actions that you would only conduct if you're an elected or an appointed government official, and he is neither.
I think the point that Tony made really gets to the heart of what we're talking about here. And Tony, I'm referring to what you were saying about bureaucrats and the bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. And Musk and Trump's approach totally flouts any of these norms about bureaucracies. And in a way, it's helpful because it illuminates why bureaucracies matter. And at every step of the way, and at every time where they're trying to dance around the rules and the red tape and all the things that are there for reasons, I kind of refer to it in TFN a lot as like the greatest civics education this country has ever had. Like one by one, he's going to point the spotlight of his chaos and dysfunction at various, not just agencies, but aspects of how things work. And people are going to learn, there's a bureaucracy because there have to be checklists before people can access this information to ensure there are no conflicts of interest. Prurient reasons for going
regulations. I mean, just,
regulations.
I wrote a Substack. I mean, it was sort of, an ode to people like Tony's mom and
Yes.
others who had worked in, because the bureaucracy, again, there's a reason they're assaulting it. Numerous reasons. One of them is clearly because they want to save money that they want to pocket, right? But another one is when we talk about those institutions of democracy out there, and often you'll say institutions of democracy, people are like, which? I don't know what, they don't know exactly what you're talking about. People, there are different lists. I think everybody would put a free press, which the corporate press has failed us. Everybody would put a judiciary. A lot of them have failed us because it's been packed. Separation of powers. The House has literally given up any oversight role whatsoever. The majority of it. What's his name is busy monitoring his son playing with his joystick. He's not busy monitoring.
Allegedly.
I just said playing with his joystick. The kid likes video games. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. But the bureaucracy, and again, a lot of it came about with the creation of like a modern state in the early 20th century, progressive era, under Teddy Roosevelt. The good economic stuff, some of it also under Wilson, who was a horrible racist and should be hated forever for that. But economic stuff was good, and FDR, and the point is that I on a couple of occasions did some work with the State Department. I did work here. I wrote, was the comms director for the Ohio Treasurer here, and I will tell you, these are people that go in because there's political people and non-political people. The non-political people are the people that go in every day, work their butts off, take pride in the fact that they're experts at things, try to help people, often work longer hours than they have to, and then accept a lesser paycheck than they could make if they just became a hotshot lawyer or whatever in the private sector. I mean, I had a huge rant about this because that's how pissed I ended up getting about it, that people would try to turn Reagan did that too. Just like he turned regulations into a negative word. He turned bureaucrats as if it's just, people with red tape and not doing anything. No, it's people acting in our best interest. It's the people that make the government run. It's people at Health and Human Services that make sure that if there are certain orders that they're carried out so that we have a healthier society. There are people at Energy, which, if I were the Republicans, I'd be like, whoa, then they manage energy. No, actually, they're the ones that manage nuclear weapons. So when you fire a bunch of them, no one's managing the nuclear weapons, guys. Maybe you should also take their emails so you can reach out to them once you fired them and say, can you come back? Because we've got nobody here managing nuclear weapons. There are reasons for the existence of these people. Could you go through all of it and say, we could cut a few percent. It may be a little bit bloated, and cut that few percent based upon maybe things that technology made no longer necessary, or that times changing made no longer necessary. Sure. But when you do a blanket cut somewhere, you're an idiot. It means you're not paying attention to the specifics. You don't care about regulation. You don't care about good government. And when you demonize bureaucrats, you're demonizing some of the best people among us, and you suck. That is my take on that.
I will say I feel like Democrats, going back maybe even decades, really should have judoed this issue a lot better than they have. For the most part.
Just this one?
This is the only one. Everything else, no.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Everything else,
Yeah,
you're
perfect.
perfect. You're perfect and everything else.
They did perfect. Yeah.
But the reality is that bureaucracies and hierarchies and regulations and red tape, those are all tools, right? And no one goes, wow, hammers are terrible, right? It's what are you doing with the hammer? And the reason we have all of these tools is because there are tons of different constituencies to serve, right? Racial justice, how are people being screwed over based on race under environmental regulations, right? Among any other things. And what Democrats could have, should have done for decades is to say, the biggest problems with our bureaucracy and our regulations are that rich, powerful corporate interests have managed to seize control of some of those tools, right? We all know what regulatory capture is, right?
That's right. Yep. That's right.
Agency after agency is actively helping companies. Well, what can we do to help you out? Like, the only agency that isn't explicitly let me help you out with the companies that they're supposed to be policing is the Labor Department. They get told, you're the referee.
Right.
Commerce,
Even the IRS is on the corporation side. I'll tell you,
like, who needs a reach around over there? I just got demonetized. Probably.
Allegedly.
They may not know what
Allegedly.
that means.
Yeah.
The AI may not get that. We'll see.
So I'll tell you that the set of people who hate red tape more than corporations. It's bureaucrats. Bureaucrats actually hate the red tape. They don't like the red tape. And the reason why a lot of times they don't like the red tape is because it prevents them from doing their job as fast as they need to do it. But it's the law, and they're bureaucrats, and they work for the government, so they have to follow the law. A lot of times the bureaucrats, they're standing back saying the laws are ridiculous. The laws are ridiculous. It actually ties our hands to either regulate an industry correctly or help corporations get in a position where they can more affordably regulate themselves. And again, we are a product of ourselves. We are a democratic constitutional republic. And because we are a democratic constitutional republic, we elect people to the United States Congress.
We're a republic, not a democracy. I'm just kidding.
Right. Even we are a republic, and we are a democracy.
They're just stupid. Go ahead.
But the thing is that those appropriated funds come because of who we voted for. That's how it works.
Or didn't.
Well, correct.
Or if we stayed home in large numbers.
It is a direct result of our action or inaction, whichever way you want to see it. Now, if you don't like the red tape, if you don't like the bureaucracy, if you don't like the budget, if you don't like condoms going to wherever, then you need to think about who you're voting for and what their votes were when you had them employed as your congressperson. Because I get really, really sick of hearing about term limits, because I'm like, they have term limits. Every 2 years we get to fire them, and we don't. I don't know why we don't.
It's not even just that. It's not even just that, dude. If you have them, and we have them here in Ohio, all it becomes is a merry-go-round, right? If they were to set a maximum number, and then, I mean, again, there's arguments for and against term limits, because sometimes some people would say when they get pushed out too soon, lobbyists take over because you have inexperienced legislators. That's why I tend to like I might believe in term limits, but I think I give them more time there. But I don't want to get into all that. But what I want to say is, here in Ohio, for example, you can run for the state house for 6 years consecutively and the state senate for 6 years consecutively. So do you want to guess what they all do?
Think tanks for a couple years.
6 years in the state house, 6 years in the state senate, 6 years back in the state house. I mean, it doesn't solve anything. Right. And so I want to say something really that I've been itching to say, to respond to what Jonathan said before, that I think was one of the most important things, is that, yes, it's not like Democrats have been doing in the past, did a great job on other stuff, but a lot of this stuff was if you understand, and I'm going to go back to my hobby horse here, if you understand how to message things, that if you make things actually, if you don't leave them bloodless, if you humanize them, if you make them about people, the fact is that we're watching, the FAA has been cut, planes are crashing. All right. The EPA gets screwed. I'm walking on the beach the other day in Sarasota with other people. We're coughing up our lungs. The point is that when we allow these places, instead of allowing Reagan and all of them to just say, well, regulations and bureaucracy, we should have said, do you mean life-saving measures that make sure people don't get in plane crashes and die, don't suffer respiratory illness because of what these rich bastards are dumping in the water? Made a list of things like that, and then held press conferences and brought forward the people who were suffering because of their deregulation. We should have humanized it. And we should have messaged around the fact that this isn't regulation. This is a modern society where we're trying to stop you from getting ill and dying. And apparently that's what Republicans want, because it allows their billionaire friends to get richer. It's really not that hard if you try. We just crouched forever. And some of our leaders, again, that's why I call it the Reagan crouch, that some of the and I don't like to make it a generational thing, but it really is that boomer generation, and even maybe the first half of Gen X. And I'm Gen X, but I'm the second half. I'm young enough that my memories of Reagan are barely like around Iran-Contra and all that. So his supposed magical powers and charisma never scared me. And the popularity of supposed conservative policies never scared me. And we've had people forever who just can't get it out of their minds that like the right has been falling apart for a while now. And if you just would stick that final, whatever in, I don't know.
Allegedly.
Maybe allegedly. I get accused of something by YouTube if I, we'll be like, you can't advocate for the murder of. In any case, point being, if we just finished it off and started to tell stories about how everything Republicans were doing was hurting people. Instead of worrying about bailing out banks and everybody in 2008 right away, maybe tell some of the stories of people that lost their homes and were starving. These are things because of deregulation of the real estate industry, of the banking industry. These are things we've never done. We're maybe starting to now. I'll end this little rant with a good friend of both Tony's and mine, Sherry Jacobus, has proposed what should just be obvious, which is that you should get Pete Buttigieg, who isn't doing anything right now.
He's always doing something.
He's always
he's doing something good, but doesn't have an official title. Call him the Democratic press secretary, put him outside the Capitol or White House, give him a staff, pay for it. If this new DNC chief wants to be different, here's something you can do. And let one of literally the best debaters and best people on their feet in the Democratic Party go after them every single day on the garbage they're doing. Message this every day the way the Justice Department under Merrick freaking Garland every week should have been messaging what was going on, what had happened on January 6th, and using words like terrorists so people would never forget what happened that day. And we don't do it. And that's what we didn't do with regulations.
I do think that Democrats have a bigger problem other than just messaging. I think they need.
There's other problems. I'm just saying that's a big one. I don't think I'm saying that's.
It's like Tony saying that's the only thing they had problems doing with. Of course, and Buttigieg is obviously a master at what he does. Part of the problem is that I think we see a lot of. I forget who wrote this column. It was a piece about the learned helplessness of the Democrats, and it really put into concrete terms for me something that had just enraged me every time I saw it in the postmortems after the election. All the Harris consultants and strategists, who I'm not intending to knock, but I'm going to anyway. The big line that I kept seeing was, it was a rough political environment. And there was a part of my brain that just burst into flames and ran away screaming, because I thought creating the political environment was your job, right? So many of them see the world as it is and they receive it. That's not by any means what Trump did.
Or the world, instead of the world as it should be. Are you going to quote Robert Kennedy? Not his son, by the way, who sucks, but the original one with that great line.
What about the brainworm? Can you quote
not his
the brainworm?
son who's somewhere chugging unpasteurized milk right now, wearing a whale head and
allegedly.
Look, the Democrats have a real problem in that what the Trump wing of the Republican Party, by which I mean 99.8% of it.
Every Republican except Lisa Murkowski
and Mike Pence, goddammit. But the narratives they offer are very simple, right? And you're seeing these stories already about people who voted for Trump and were like, wait, I didn't know that. Right, because you listened to the simple thing and you didn't do the work. The problem that Democrats have is that they need to sell something that's complicated. Not just their solutions, but also explanations for things. Like when the economy went down in 2007, 2008, I was actually working on Countdown with Keith Olbermann at the time, and people forget this. The original theory for why the world economy blew up was that the mean old Democratic government forced the innocent Wall Street banks to lend too much money to black people who wanted to buy homes.
I remember that. They always have to find a way. It's like they let poor black people, and this is their words, not
because
mine.
We know how
they let poor black people buy homes. Damn them.
We know how much economic clout poor black home buyers have, right? They would obviously be able to drive
a domino
the market,
clearly,
across the entire
terms of debate.
The real answer was pretty complicated because they've spent decades complexifying our financial system. So now you had derivatives, which what the hell is that? Which derive their value from
an
oil
underlying
prices.
security. But couldn't John? I
Right.
have to
And
say
so you have
something
to
quickly.
explain all this stuff.
Couldn't we have? I mean, again, as wearing my messaging hat, and then go ahead, Tony. No, I thought you were going to be here for a bit, and then be me and Jonathan. But I think this is such a good three-way conversation that up to you,
Allegedly.
Tony. I'd like you to stay.
Yeah, don't put me in this the alleged three-way.
Tony, if you want to deny that you and I have had some nights where we've had a little bit too much whiskey, you go ahead.
Hey,
I'm not going to lie to our
allegedly, no.
Allegedly, that's happened. Allegedly.
I don't want you to have to talk to my lawyer.
Exactly. You could still say very clearly, people, Republicans created risky securities, which they did not know. They did not know what would happen with them. They put your money in a casino and it disappeared. I mean, you still could find ways to message that in a straightforward way.
Yes. Well, we actually did do it on Countdown because we identified Phil Gramm as the senator who helped pass it and then profited off it as a lobbyist for UBS. But part of the problem, Cliff, with that messaging of yours, the stuff that tanked the economy was signed into law by President William J. Clinton.
You're right.
So it's
Clinton
not
deregulated. I know he deregulated, but the problem then is, as it can be sometimes, is you got to call out your own people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I do it now, and I say Bill Clinton, I think, did a lot of good things overall. But I mean, to me, and I, that I should mention this along with it, right? Like was it the Commodities Act, which was probably the one that deregulated it. But I mean, the 1996 Telecommunications Act was awful. I mean, it's the media. It's one of the reasons we have the media environment we have today. We started allowing these bigger media conglomerates to get together. I think that's the one that undid the rule, where it used to be that you could only own one outlet in any city.
Right.
Suddenly, Rupert Murdoch in New York City owns the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, National Fox, Fox Business, local Fox. I mean, the point is so I'm not one that frees Democrats of blame.
Right. But it does make it a little more tough for the Democratic spokespeople to then tell that story. And besides which, it's not enough to say, oh, this bad piece of legislation got through. Then you have to look at, well, why? What was the story we were telling ourselves about that, right? And it wasn't the Commodities Act, I think it was the Commodity Futures Modernization Act. And
that's what it was. I just couldn't remember the rest of the name.
Yeah. But that's important. Modernization was the story they were telling us. Gosh, Wall Street can't compete anymore. Really? With who? Like, I mean,
right.
Whenever they tell us they're modernizing
reform, modernization,
it's like,
right.
Like we need new ways of Social Security, right?
Yeah.
When they want
new ways of thinking about this stuff. No, we truly do not. We have seen it work. Right, we know what success looks like. We know we saw a model for white people of increasing economic justice. All you had to do was increase that beyond. You don't need modernization or reform or new ideas, any of that stuff. And Democrats have yet to get past this message of, oh, we have to let the job creators create jobs, and the business leaders, they should run for office.
We let them control that messaging again and create everything around our culture. Who are the right people to run for office? As you're suddenly qualified because you're a billionaire?
Right.
No, you're not.
Right.
My
job was to extract money from society, so therefore now I should be in charge of of making sure everyone in society is served equally.
The only position outside of having actually served in government that I would argue that you can say that to some degree prepares you to a large degree to be president is you could argue someone like Eisenhower, because when you're commanding the Allied forces, in D-Day, I think that's a pretty big logistical nightmare, and there's lives at stake. And I think you can make an argument. And again, who the general is matters very much. If it's General Flynn, not so much.
Even there though, like Eisenhower got to succeed in situations where everyone had to listen to him. Like that's not the job of government.
You're right. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying to me it's the only one where I feel like you could say I have relevant experience.
Right.
Being a corporate leader or billionaire, whatever, is not relevant experience to government. It's just not, and we've allowed it to become that. It can be a part of it. Of relevant experience that I've been in the private sector. Great.
Right. It's not disqualifying necessarily.
What else have you done?
Right.
Well, but
exactly.
they have concepts of plans. One more thing before I go that I just want to throw out there.
Oh,
Is
now
that,
you're leaving you, SOB.
Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm out of here allegedly.
Allegedly.
Sorry.
Damn it, you beat
Allegedly.
me to that, you
So I'll tell you, if everyone out there wants to know the reason why Democrats suck.
Aw,
Yeah,
We don't
it's
suck.
allegedly.
Come
no,
on,
no, we
dude.
suck. No, we suck.
No, we don't.
Here's what I'll say. Because we have all the right policies, right? We have all the right ideas. We're the most intelligent. You know, we're so academic and intellectual. We got all the data and we know all the facts. The one thing that we did that destroyed our ability to really gain the great American working class on our side is we left the kitchen table. And we conceded it to Republicans. We conceded that kitchen table with language like universal health care. We conceded it to them with universal pre-K and messaging like that. If we would have said things like, Americans don't want to go broke because of a doctor bill. Americans are struggling to pay their electric bill because the electric companies are gouging them. If we would have messaged to their table, right. If we would have messaged to their table instead of fancy phrases and focus grouped, words that they put together, like universal, we should never say that word ever again when it comes to policy. We should dump that word. It should be a bad word, and it's not because it is a bad word. It's because the Republicans did such a good job at destroying it because we let them. We let them by leaving the kitchen table and let them have their way with messaging to people who had actual plight and mass plight too. I mean, I'm not talking about regional plight or
right.
A generational plight or plight of gender or plight of race. I'm talking about trans people really give a damn about how expensive their groceries are. Like that, like they really care about that. And trans people really want us to have national discourse on how to lower prices. They don't want us putting targets on their back about their genitalia. If you go talk to trans people, they will tell you, I want people to stop talking about that because it puts a target on my back. I would much rather you have an argument about groceries and my rent price. Like that's the thing I'm struggling with. That's the thing that's going to help me actually make it to my
Can I
kitchen
say something
table.
quickly, Tony?
Yeah.
Again, these are all related to each other. There's more than one problem. There's multiple problems as we've been discussing here. And backing away from some of that, but messaging is absolutely one of them. As you're saying right now, it's letting a certain, once corporations started grabbing certain Democrats, that was a problem too. But I mean, again, I just don't think when you see Jamie Raskins and you see Jasmine Crockett's and you see, look, there are a lot of good people on our side, and there also are some weak Democrats, and there's also some bought off Democrats. But there's one party that has a lot of good people in it who propose laws that are trying to do things like raise the minimum wage and having guaranteed paid family leave and these things, even if they're doing it in a crappy way and their messaging sucks. And there's one party who wants to right now rob Social Security so they can give themselves tax cuts. So I think that's important.
So let me say it another way. Republicans are full on fascist. Democrats are standing around debating decorum so much that they couldn't spot a fascist if it sat on them. The truth is, and I'm only loyal to the truth, and the truth is that our democracy is hanging by a thread.
Well, that part is true.
And that's the problem that we have. The problem that we have is not left and right and left, blue and red. The problem is that we're not playing on the correct teams. We're not looking at this in the correct way. And I know I pound this drum every day on my show, and I will continue to pound this drum because I believe it to be true, because I come from rural Missouri. I know people with this plight. I know people who voted for Trump because of egg prices. Literally, that's why they voted for him. And they're disgruntled now. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Right. But we didn't have a messaging. Not only did we not, there are a lot of errors there. Part of it is we did not have an apparatus to reach people. I'll just say in 2 seconds, I drove to work. I drove my 10-minute, commute to this office this morning. I either usually put on some obnoxious hard rock or heavy metal to wake me up because it's cool, or I listen to this show here, Kid Chris, because he's funny as hell. I was listening to that. I hit 5:50 a.m. by mistake. And right before I got in my car, I've got somebody telling people that what a great job, these right-wing talkers telling people what a great job Musk is doing and all of them cutting inefficiencies like nobody else has before. And, when you look at stuff like the $10 million we spent for circumcisions in Guatemala, that's what this a-hole said. And again, if you can't respond to stuff like that and reach people who are being lied to like that, some of it's our fault because we abandoned some of those communities. Some of it's our fault because we refuse to use power when we have it. I've gone on that thing forever. The filibuster, not constitutional. The debt ceiling, not constitutional. And we've never just sat there and said, no, you're not going to hold us hostage because it doesn't exist in the Constitution. Screw you. There is no debt ceiling. We have to pay our debt. That's what the Constitution. And so it's more than one reason. I know you have the thing you hit on constantly, Tony, and I do believe you're correct, and that's one of the reasons. But I also think that we've failed in a number of areas, and I also think that there's a group of, I'd say, 50-something and under Democrats right now who, instead of the 80-somethings, are doing a lot better job. It's just, will they be able to do it in time? But there are people that get it. They get how to message, they get how to mock the other side, they get how to respond. They're still playing in an unfair terrain because they do not have the messaging machine the right has. And you have to acknowledge that as part of it. Your neighbors are hearing it on their local talk radio. I bet there's a Sinclair TV station there. They're hearing it on Fox News, and all of that. And we have none of that, So I do think that has to be part of the whole thing, if we're going to be fair. Does that make any sense? Allegedly, and I agree with you. I think the brainwashing of America has happened, but we as liberals, and I don't mean Democrats, because I that's one thing that I think Americans hate more than anything is people who are really involved and really focused in on politics. They talk about parties because they really don't have an allegiance to a party. There may be some sort of generational allegiance to a party, like my grandpappy voted for Republicans, so I vote for Republican. There's that association, right?
That they have, but they have no allegiance to a party. They're not card-carrying Republicans or card-carrying Democrats, and they kind of get tired of that back and forth. Really, honestly, Americans don't understand ideology because the majority of people who voted for Trump, if you went line by line by line, they would be a lowercase L liberal, and they just don't even know it. They have no clue because they don't know the difference between conservative and liberal. They just don't.
Right.
But that's not Democrats' fault. That's not Republicans' fault. But it is our problem as liberals that want to live in a democracy still, not a Nazi regime or a Russian style oligarchy. It is our responsibility to make sure that we do whatever we can to get that message out there and to say those things. And I'll just say one more thing before I leave. I want to repeat this because I think it bears repeating. Republicans are full on fascist. There's no question. And Democrats are too busy debating decorum to do anything about it. That's one of the problems that we have. It's one of the major problems.
Again, not all Democrats, but sadly, leadership for the most part, and a lot of others.
But the leadership reflects the troops. And I hope that the new DNC chair emerges as someone who has a voice in the party. I'm actually skeptical and just that it won't happen because I haven't heard anything from the very first message. They're not doing a very good job of putting anyone out there at all. That's why Sherry Jacobus's idea of Mayor, and I would call him because he's Mayor Pete, but Jonathan, to your favorite word and one of my favorite words, I think he could be the mayor of FU. If I will. Maybe that would be good. So I would suggest that Democrats stop debating decorum, maybe put someone like Mayor Pete, the mayor of FU, out there in front of people and start messaging to the great American working class and talk about the kitchen table. Stop talking about culture wars and get the war on greed started. That's
why I literally, again, one of the things I began this with, talking about that sort of environmental situation down on Florida Beach. There could be no clear, defining line between billionaires and everybody else. They dump the crap in there. They get the executive order right at the beginning of the of the Trump administration saying if you put if you're worth $1 billion or you invest $1 billion, you can get around EPA regulations. And here's where we are. Nobody can swim there.
Jonathan, it's nice to meet you. I do have to go though. I'm getting messages, so I got to go. Cliff, it's good to see you again,
Great
and I'm glad I stuck. I'm glad I stuck around. We'll see you guys soon. And audience,
take it easy.
Take care of these guys. They're special, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. All right, Jonathan, me and you. So you talk more, I talk less, which is tell me about one or two other pieces you're working on. Some interesting stuff you got going on.
Interesting stuff. Well, it's funny because just before I joined you and Tony, and he mentioned the bureaucrats, I was noodling in my head with something about doing a piece. I was thinking of calling it now. Of course, when I talk about it now I won't have the energy anymore to do it, but in praise of bureaucrats and red tape, just because I think it's really important. But to get back to something Tony mentioned earlier, I do think that that it's not merely messaging. And I think messaging is problematic and has been problematic for a while, not just because of the messaging around great policy, but because of the actual meat, right? The actual product that you're selling.
Right.
And Republicans have been, I think, pretty clear, although not necessarily thorough, in terms of what they were envisioning, right? You can be unclear on exactly what Trump means, but he's not ashamed to say, here's what I think. Let's beat up the protesters. Let's throw 60 Minutes in jail.
Right. He asked if he can shoot him in the legs, right?
Right. So what we don't hear from Democrats, right? They've been so, and look, I get the impulse. They've been so invested in institution defense that they've made two errors, I think.
Isn't it ironic? I just have to say, like, that's the definition of conservatism.
Yeah.
Like, we've been the conservatives. It's crazy.
Right.
Go ahead.
But they've been so committed to defending institutions that they've utterly forgotten their own history of complaints with those institutions, right? There are lots of concerns about the FBI actually being politicized. It's not like it got worse after Hoover.
I mean, the head of the New York office also was arrested. What's his name? What was his name? McGonagall, whatever.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he was
after he left. Right. Yeah. But look, but also, if anyway, you can say this about lots of different institutions. The media, I having worked in cable TV quite a long time and broadcast TV news as well, I don't think they have like the partisan agendas everyone assumes they have, but they do have biases in how they perceive the world and how they decide to talk about it, right? So this is something I actually wrote about at TFN, the effing news, if I can say that.
You absolutely can.
Okay.
I encourage you to.
Is that, they send people to DC to cover the White House. So Trump says something and boom, the story is Trump said a thing. And,
right.
And that's how we see it. But that's because of the essentially arbitrary decision to cover the world that way. Trump's thing might actually be ethnic cleansing. That should figure just as heavily into the coverage.
You'd hope. Yeah.
One would hope. But also, like, if you listen to, I think the first time when he was asked about, we're talking about Gaza here, when he was talking about moving people out of Gaza, ethnic cleansing, the people around him are all White House reporters, and they're all asking
not one of them asked that question, I don't believe.
They're all asking like process questions, like, are you planning to talk about this with the King of Jordan?
I've talked about it with a lot of my media criticism, so I don't believe here, that like in some whole, conspiracy that, oh my God, they're all right wing. If you've worked in any kind of a office atmosphere, if you've done these kinds of things, first of all, what your boss wants. Second of all, what you need to do to get a promotion.
If you're lucky, you know what your boss wants.
Sorry?
If you're lucky, you know what your boss wants.
But you get an idea from public statements and that kind of thing. You also know what it takes when you meet the people that have been there for a while to get promoted, to get that corner office. You also know what it takes to get access to certain people to write a book and get a book contract. I think there's a lot. Also, when we're talking about working classes, I mean, it used to be when we moved here, we lived next to this fantastic old time reporter, for the Cincinnati Enquirer, who was a working class guy, and maybe ended up a middle class guy in the end his whole life, because that's who reporters used to be.
People
and they're
forget.
now folks from Ivy League institutions who have no worries about that change. So there
People
are a ton
forget just how cantankerous and ornery and do not give AF journalists and reporters used to be.
Oh my God! Right?
They would show up and they knew they were not part of the world they were covering, so they did not care. They would
They were a lot more in their cultural, and I don't mean this in any negative or positive way, just whatever, in their cultural kind of demeanor. They were more like firefighters or policemen and women than they were like, people at a country club. And now they're more like people at a country club. And so, upsetting the apple cart, you've got more to lose. You're not as hungry. You want to get that promotion. You care
But also,
about
you
the
were never
prestige.
outside that system. You were never the guy on the outside looking in through the glass.
Correct. You were always an insider. And again, look, I come from this, I don't like to be a hypocrite. I come from that kind of a world.
I'm okay with it.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm okay with it, but go ahead.
Well, but that's why, and it's funny because people, I was talking to a certain friend of ours earlier, common friend of ours who put us on a text chain, and he was laughing about it because I was saying, I feel like it gives me some more license because I should be sitting here defending all of it. Meanwhile, there are people that I literally went to school with that I'm attacking constantly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who've ended up at some of these outlets. And again, that's why I feel like I have some insight into what motivates them. Because I know what the newsletters are. I know what the so-and-so who graduated so-and-so has accomplished this and what they care about and whatever. And again, their priorities are screwed up and all in the wrong place. I'm glad my parents or whatever the hell else, I give them credit for bringing me up in a different way. But, they've always ever been insiders, and it was just make a lot of money and get married, have kids, especially when I was from New York City, get a place in the Hamptons, that kind of thing. And that was it. And I'm just saying that's not all of them, but a lot of them. I'm saying that's become so I'm not saying that there's some right wing bias. Now here and there is, because your publisher or editor is a right winger or whatever, but mostly it's a bias of, of getting out there and knowing that you want to make your boss happy, so you're promoted. You want to make your owner happy, so you're promoted. You want to get access. There's all sorts of reasons not to talk about things you've seen, not to upset the apple cart, and that is just a different situation than what reporters used to be.
And what I find so ironic is that you've got so much fewer moneyed interests controlling so much more of the media now, right? You used to have multiple papers in every city, multiple TV stations in every decent sized market that were doing investigations and things like that. What's amazing to me is, as someone who's worked in TV, people would say, oh, all they care about the ratings, all they care about is the money. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do they look like they're getting good ratings? And what I try to explain to folks is that so few of them come from an environment or a background where they had to be the first one to tell a story. Like I started off as a print reporter in Brooklyn. There was no AP or New York Times covering my neighborhood. I had to be the first one to talk about it every week, multiple stories. And then I got into TV, and it turned out very few of the people around me had ever done that. So the only way they knew how to be sure that a story was newsworthy, but also that they could defend choosing it to their boss, was if it was in the New York Times or later on Huffington Post. And so that ethos was never the case at Fox News, because they were so dedicated to rejecting not just the alleged points of view, but also the editorial thinking about what matters.
Well, I mean, look, Roger Ailes didn't lie. He said it straight out there. He tried to find right-wing news, was it called? I don't even remember what it's called. An earlier version, post-Nixon, where, the technology was such that all he was doing was getting people to record stuff on like VHS tapes and sending it out.
Oh, I
His
didn't know
idea
that.
from the beginning was, and he accomplished it. Let's make. He never wanted another Republican being thrown out the way Nixon was during Watergate.
Right.
He blamed the media, and it was that we are going to create our own media, and that was always the goal. And he got there with Fox right at the right time when they were deregulating where you could own things in what markets, and that you could own different types of media, and all these things that we forgot that we had these regulations in place, fairness doctrine. And the reason for them is because when they were put in place, we had seen what had happened in Germany, and we'd seen what had happened in Italy and Japan when certain forces were allowed to get control of most of what people heard. And
and it was helpful for Roger Ailes to have a billionaire ready to give him everything he wanted and do everything he wanted. But
I love how as a billionaire immigrant, and Elon Musk is a billionaire immigrant. Basically, I mean, Donald Trump, outside of him, the people who may be most responsible for destroying our country right now are billionaire immigrants.
Well, my thing is also, and this is kind of mean, but to me, the big concern is less the challenges to democracy and to liberal democracy and representative democracy, and more, what is the state of our safeguards against it? Right? You'll always have people trying to do bad things.
Sure.
But do you have cops on the beat who will actually protect and defend and serve? You know, that's been the real question. Like, you know, we had Democrats for a year plus tell us that Trump was a fascist and a threat to democracy. And then they violated the 14th Amendment by letting him take office.
They couldn't. I mean, they should have proposed legislation. They couldn't have gotten it passed. But yes, they should have proposed legislation.
Well, I mean, the Constitution is very unclear about how you're supposed to enforce it. It's just not supposed to happen. So in theory, no Democrat should have gone along with anything that would have countenanced a violation of that
I
amendment.
agree. I'm not sure what they could have. I mean, they could have just laid down in a chain or something. But I'm saying, like, if we'd had a majority, at least we could have passed legislation or done something.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's also, I said that at the time, they should have been much more forthcoming on that. I also, look, man, I've lit into them. I even, with Kamala Harris, you know, as vice president, when we had a majority, again, it's very simple. It's in the Constitution. This is the part about not using power that I talk about. The presiding officer in the Senate makes the rules. The presiding officer, when you are in the majority, is the vice president. When the position of majority and minority leaders and that kind of thing, just like parties, do not exist in the Constitution. They are a construct that we made up. So the simple fact of the matter is that when you see that fascist, you know, you see fascists headed your way, I'm sorry, we're already at a point of break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Following fake precedent that never really existed, at that point, she should have declared the filibuster unconstitutional. She just should have stood up and said that the rules of this Senate are there, that it is a majority body as was laid out in the Constitution of the United States of America. There's no argument over that. It's very plain language. And at that point, Democrats, think of all the things from voting rights when Democrats were in the majority to you know, background checks on guns, to climate change, to minimum wage, you know, much higher, all the things they could have passed to increase their chances of staying there. And we you know, I'm looking at it right now. We're seeing it in New York is another classic example. Like, by dint of a weird city and state law in New York, Kathy Hochul has the power to remove Eric Adams.
Yeah.
She literally can remove him. And that is power that can be used. It is power that is given to you in the Constitution of both the city and state of New York. Remove him. He's obviously MAGA now. He obviously is corrupt. He's obviously made a deal with you know, this nutbag Homan about what he's going to do to immigrants. Remove him. Use your power. It's right there. You know, and it was like when I should have thought Biden should have much sooner done that with the Equal Rights Amendment. It was that in the Constitution, there is no time limit there's some BS time limit that Republicans passed in Congress. It is not constitutional. You just declare that right away that the equal rights, and he did it eventually. And so I guess maybe it'll play out in courts or whatever, but he should have done it a long time before. The ERA is the law of the land. We've gotten the requisite number of states. There is no limit in the Constitution. Therefore, that's what the law of the land is. And this is where Democrats often our leadership certainly fails is they will not stand up especially on the things where there may be a misbegotten precedent, but it is based on BS. Okay, the debt ceiling was created during World War I because they're worried that we're spending too much money on war. It was a fake construct. Always, it's right there in the Constitution that we have to pay our debt. There should never ever be where we get to, well, what do we have to cut to make Republicans happy for the debt ceiling? No, we just pay our debt. They have no say in this. It's the way it works, and that's the stuff that drives me crazy. Right? Is when we don't use, because it isn't just messaging. It's how it's the fake, comedy, right? ITY of where, we have to have a good relationship and work together. It's the lack of using power. It's all of that added up. The lack of creating our own, infrastructure for media. I mean, there's a lot there. And when you add it all together, it gets us to where we are right now. That's my feeling.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, we're done. No.
No, I do have to remember. I told you I have that thing, so I have to bail
right.
too.
You
Sorry,
have to bail too. So no. Jim, you had it up before. If you can get up the Substack for Jonathan.
If you won't get demonetized for telling people how to get the newsletter, yeah.
I'm willing to take that risk. Is there anywhere else that folks can find you?
I'm on Blue Sky under my name, but pretty much Substack is where I'm locked in.
You guys should all go follow. He's a brilliant guy,
Great
guy. And I'm sorry, like today, because in the end, and we're all big talkers, having Tony on also. So I'd like to have you back on where
anytime.
See, you get that right there. CC right here. I found Jonathan on Substack and have subscribed.
Aww.
So we know we got you at least one new subscriber. That's a start.
It's a start.
But what I'm saying is I will let's have you back on one of your good pieces, and I'll make sure it's just you and me, and just go off on what you have found, because you break.
And I'll make sure I can hang for the entire time.
Oh, I mean, this is you've been here an hour. We'll just make sure that there aren't three of us, and I'll try to rein in my big mouth.
No. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed the three-way, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Thanks, Cliff.
You're fantastic, man. Thanks for being here.
Take care.
All right. I will. All right, there we go. All right, guys. What else do we have on the agenda? Let's see. So, we can have this out. I don't know if they're all trolls or some of you guys, though, I know are people who used to having a pretty friendly relationship with in here, who are accusing me of the clickbait thing. I mean, did I jump too quickly? Maybe. If I did, I apologize. If I made it too much, the "you're fired" thing. It's just such a good, it's Trump, right? That's his little phrase, and that's one of the reasons that I did that. But in the end, like right there in this legal filing, it was leading the Huffington Post and whatever, that he was kicked out of DOGE. So, well, Martin, you can say it's clickbait if you'd like. And you can decide what to do about that. I'll let the people who are here often judge the quality of this show. The people I have on, the stuff I talk about, what I get angry about, what I get when I make jokes, and I'll let them judge it by that. But in the end, to me, I still think at this point they're going to have to figure something out, because legally they have dumped him. So in their legal filing, he has been erased from DOGE. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens with that, to be honest with you, because the law of the land still kind of has a thing to it. And the law of the land is you can't say something and then go back on it if you said it in a court document. That's perjury. There you go. Here's my friends. It was an appropriate title. Well, it was an appropriate title, Cliff. He fired him. It just doesn't matter. I agree. Cliff is not a clickbaiter. Kelly Starr gives me it was a good wordplay. And then I get from Ovi, if I'm mispronouncing it, I expect your apologies. She is not happy with, or I think it's she. If it's he, you are not happy with me. Okay. hopefully you'll keep coming around. But again, sometimes I'm going to be provocative, and I thought that was interesting. And I also thought that Jonathan was a great conversation. Jonathan's awesome. Hopefully we'll get him here more to talk, because he's a really interesting dude and a really smart dude. And who else names their thing the effing news, which I wish I could say over and over again. So that happened. I brought up some of the other stuff I was going to talk about, which was what's going on in New York. And, there's been a lot of ripping of Democrats on this show already. So I'm not looking to do too much of it, because, again, I think actually the last week or two, after a period of time where Democrats weren't standing up strongly enough, they really have been. And I think it's been to our advantage. There have been lawsuits and they've been stopped in court. We've had Democrats making public statements, whether it be outside of a Treasury Department, outside of USAID, in hearings, taking on Republicans, Representative Stansbury and Crockett. And a lot of them have been women, actually, which has been great to see. Not scared, but as a group of thugs and assaulters. And so, again, you're in the minority. Messaging is one of the key things you can do, and procedure is the other. And that's why I want to see that. 21st century suffragettes as guests, I'm getting from Benny Loco. How many of you guys are there is the question. I think more than 2 people on the same show, because even that got sort of a little bit tough. So let's, if there's 2, then we definitely could do it, and we'll balance it out. If there's more than 2, we may have to figure out a way to sort of maybe have 2 shows with you or whatever. I want to make sure everybody gets to say their thing. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here, when I say that I think there's a bunch of good Democrats have been doing, but I will say again, right now in New York, and I haven't been a huge Hochul fan, I'm going to be honest. What are you doing? He's an ally of Trump's now, Eric Adams. He's made it clear. And that's not a partisan thing. He's an ally of a criminal, because he himself, actually, I don't have to say allegedly with Trump. Trump was a criminal. And he allegedly is a criminal. He's been indicted, of course, gets pardoned. So, this should be, again, why Democrats even struggle with this, using power at these moments. This should be the most obvious thing in the world. You have the power to remove him. He's making deals, bad faith deals with criminals in the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. Remove him. I just don't understand. I don't understand why you would leave him in power. Hopefully they are discussing removing him. And then there's J.D. Vance. That was something else I wanted to talk about, who decided to go to Europe. You guys probably all saw, and lectured them, met with the right-wing parties over there, the ones like Elon has endorsed, and lectured them on democracy. When he met with fascist parties, when he met with the parties that would spit on his children for the color of their skin rather than talk to them, which just shows he's maybe the worst father in the world. To be a dad and to objectively make life worse for your children, I don't know what kind of human that makes you, but to also lecture them, this little dorky incel, Peter Thiel-owned loser who has no background, who got the vice president after being 2 years in the Senate, has no background in government. Sure, he wrote some stuff on it, but mostly spent his time in finance. He doesn't know a damn thing about what he's talking about. These countries have been dedicated to democracy. And he's lecturing them. Yes, he can lecture them on democracy, and then how about they lecture him on, let's say, cheese grits? I'm sure they know more about that than he does. Lefty Gramps, my man. Yes, Vance is a disgrace to all humanity. Agreed. Be patient. There may be the timing strategy over Adams. Connie Douglas. Okay, Connie, I respect that. Maybe I'm jumping too soon. That there may be a way of doing it so the timing is best. As long as that's what we're talking about here, I'm good with that. But every moment that he's there, I worry there could be more danger as to what he could do. It may be that they're trying to set it up a certain way based upon primaries and general election. I think that's what you're saying. So what else do we have? I think that is most of what we had for today, to be honest with you. because we covered some of it with our good friend Jonathan and with Tony. So I don't think I've gone into the other stuff today. I did start to tell you, and I will tell you more on Thursday about the big super duper launch we have planned for Substack. That's going to make it a very large newsletter. I will tell you that whole story on Thursday. I'm pretty excited about that. I would, I would love it if you guys would, we're still growing at YouTube. Continue to subscribe. That would be great. I did see that Google just did a bunch of things that I did not love, and therefore I'm going to continue to say Substack and Patreon are the other two places. So Jim, if you can toss those up there, those are the three. That would be great if, even one more Patreon subscriber this time. And if you're at, a YouTube member and you go and you subscribe at Patreon, we'll give you that credit so you can be there. But we're really trying to grow that in a way where we can make that sustainable and really do a lot more there. It's a lot of stuff to do. It's busy and I'm doing my best. What'd you say, Lefty Grams? Jeffries needs to get on media and back Hochul up and stop being weak. When you say back Hochul up, you mean back her up? So back her to against the wall, like metaphorically, so that she has to get rid of Eric Adams, or that would, in any case, what Connie, I think it was, who said that is true. There may be a timing strategy. So I will hold off until I see something. Michael McAndrews, as always, comes in and supports me. Thank you. These are the places. I'd love to have one or two new Patreon subscribers. Love to have a whole bunch of new YouTube subscribers and Substack, because those are free. Patreon can be free. I'd love it if you come in even at the $3 level, because again, we're trying to build it up. I see you again, Benny. Yeah, there you go. See, look, Tim can vouch for me, and he's a very reliable source. That's all you need to know. I may have missed it when you put it up there before, Benny, about how many members there are of your suffragettes. So send me something, send me a message, let me know somehow if I don't see it now. Yeah, and we didn't even Clover. I see what you're saying. We haven't gotten into Trump sold Ukraine out. I mean, JD Vance did on that stage. Trump meeting with them. I'm sorry, there's none of this that goes forward without Europe and without Ukraine involved. We talked about that earlier today, I believe, on here. But no, or I was on Stephanie Miller's show earlier. It may have been on there and maybe not here. And look at how great you guys are. I'm not even doing the who's coming with me right now. So I'm going to make sure that I give everybody credit here for the super chats and everything else, because this is terrific. From Dr. Kev's girl, we got $6.66. So you either think I'm the devil or Trump is, maybe both of us. High Cliff's Edge saying hugs from Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you. Memphis, great town. Went to BB King's Blues Bar while I was there. Had a lot of fun in Memphis. Great music scene, all of that. Barbecue, outstanding. Thank you, Dr. Kev's gal. Come back, subscribe to our various places on the screen here. Sheldon Hughes is calling BS on, I don't remember what that was about, but thank you, of course, for being here. Did I put Dr. Kev's gal? I meant to put this up here, so if I didn't, it's here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sheldon. You are fantastic, and always in here. Mike Farley, I owe you a call about some rock and roll stuff. Great back and forth with the three of you. Thank you. Thanks for the $10 super chat. And we need to talk some rock and roll again. It's I hate to use the old Seinfeld, it's not you, it's me, but it really is. I was down in Sarasota over a long break because my mom has some health issues, and the Substack big launch next week. And, it's that one of those times. I've eased up my schedule, but still a lot to do. But I shall be in touch. Sheldon again. Jonathan was a great guest. Thank you. Thank you. We do our best on that front when we can. Told you I will always have people, hopefully, that are good people and who are also know something. I don't want one or the other. I'm not gonna have somebody because they're nice who has nothing to offer, and I don't want to have people that know stuff if they suck, unless it's something we really, really need to know. I like JD Christie with a super sticker. Thank you. 99-cent super sticker. We love it. Hugely helpful. Benny, thank you so much. We already talked about the 21st century suffragettes as guests. When I know how many, we're going to do it. May do it in 2 shows. I am open. And again, would like to just need to watch your show. I need to chat with you first. I need to when I'm not as busy, like watch because I can't watch anything right now. So it's nothing personal to your show. I'm not watching like the shows that I go on when I'm not, on there because I'm too busy with stuff. But I want to get you on. Just make sure that I think we're on the same wavelength here. Lefty Gramps, my friend, Vance is a disgrace to all humanity. Moved here, got elected vice president. He just is. He's sickening. He stands for nothing. And when one time, a couple of us, including a reporter, but I debated him on NPR. Like he literally said he was going to hold his nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. Completely different guy, which just shows you he will sell his soul. He's selling his kids essentially. He's selling their future out for his political ambition. Again, these kids will experience a much tougher life. They will have much more racism, much more bullying, because he's making that okay for people to do to non-white kids like his. Who does that? Who does that? Arizona sunflowers for $4.99. Thank you. That's fantastic. Just thank you. You're awesome. Michael McAndrews, $5, half a cup of coffee. That's about right. We have a really good free coffee maker. It's one of the few good perks of this building. Getting somebody buying naming rights to what is an entrepreneur's kind of bunch of offices, like a kind of a low-end WeWork that's owned by the county. But yeah, in my place. And Sheldon Hughes is giving a membership. Sheldon, you're just all over the place today. So that's a lot of good stuff for today. All right, so here you go. So yeah, we are on the way out, but I do think I have to at least, because it's how we end every show, do a who's coming with me. Come on, just one. 99-cent super sticker, Patreon membership, whatever you want to give. I just need one person to come with me. One person. Look at that. I think that's me at Twitch. My Twitch friends here. How about one of you? How about one of my Twitch? I need to get to know you guys. We got Right Said Rob here as a Twitcher. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but you know what? Sounds kind of cool. So, anybody coming with me? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Don't make me take the goldfish. Don't make me take the goldfish. Isn't it going to be cool eventually when of course, Sheldon jumps in. Sheldon, you're a prince among men, and we'll figure out how to handle that in terms of a few people here getting recognition who've been incredibly supportive. I've got Veronica's helped me out working on like the sort of the graphics that we can show people that are members. So we're going to do that. Will James, 38. Good to see you, my friend. Another one of our Twitch folks. So Sheldon is coming with me. We're good. Matthew Tarpley, I think you are one of a few. I'm sorry. I need to accept your messages on Substack. It's something else I should do. Jesse James thinks I should sing you guys out. Clover's leaving. Thank you for being here. Cliff, I get a big energy hug. So you still like me after you think I clickbaited you? I'll take a big energy hug. Hopefully, if you think that's what I did there, that wasn't really, I'm not a clickbait kind of guy. I can be a guy that likes to play with words, play with images, use stuff, creatively. And I did because of something I read. But if you think that and whatever, we'll think about how we word things in the future. I mean, again, I care what you guys think because I care that you're happy here. It's supposed to be a community for all of us. I don't care about the trolls that came in. Some of them came in and said stuff, but for you folks who've been here for longer, what you think matters to me a lot. So Kelly Starr, thank you for also giving something great out the door. Everybody, Benny Loco is saying she'll see you at 2 p.m. Pacific, 21st Century Suffragettes. Cliff. William James 30 is my handle on Twitch. All right. Well, I'm going to go to Twitch, figure it out, follow you, and do whatever else I can there. Thank you for supporting me from there, as well as everywhere else. I don't know what you want me to sing you out with. A lot of the stuff that I like. We can think about that for next time, what I can sing you out with. But for now, I think I'm going to simply say, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell. Have a great day and a great evening, everybody. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for supporting me as always. And I'll see you tomorrow.